just wanted to give you one more resource to use and look back at if needed. When we are looking at some of our spec sheets, I mentioned earlier that you might want to have this document from the correlation guide available to you while you work. That's because some of our iLearn spec sheets are actually coming straight from Smarter Balanced, which is referencing our Common Core. So I'm going to pull up 6.af3. I hope. Slowly. There it is. So here it is showing up on my, this doesn't even have Indiana standards. So what I need to do then is go back and do a cross check and see, okay, where in the Common Core standards does 6AF3 fit in our work? So I'm going to come back to my correlation guide, and I can see here that these are my Indiana standards. Here's what we decided would be happening in those standards for Indiana. And then this is what Common Cores looks like. And it does give a difference from what happened in Indiana as they changed them and moved them to the newer standards. So if I go down and I'm just looking for my 6.AF3, here we go again, scrolling down, and here it is. So it tells me how this is what we have to do. Here's what the new standards say. And then I can look here and say, oh, here's my Common Core correlation. This is my cross check right now. So when I'm doing 6.af.3 and I'm looking at this like funky spec sheet that they have, I know I need to look and focus on A2, the A2A, A2B, and then I would also want to find EEB6 somewhere. So as I'm looking at this, I can now come here and know that I'm looking at this part right here. So I can use this to sort of look and see, what do I need to be able to do with my AF3. There are some other things that I want to look at on this spec sheet as well. If you download it, you can highlight it and make some changes to it, but it still has some of that other information. It does tell us what the tasks will be that students are going to be doing. It does give some examples of things that you could be doing instead. It's just not laid out in the same format as the other one is. It gives you where they were in 5th grade, what's going to happen in 7th, and then it does show I'm going to test at a level 1 and 2. So we can still use this document to help understanding our testing levels. It's just going and finding the Common Core standards first and where they match up. And then when I look here, it does give me a bunch of information about levels 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I could look at those to see what my students need to be doing. And then it also talks about the evidence that we'd have to see. So I'm going to be looking at this even as some of my know, understand, and do, and seeing what from this can I actually put back in my Kudo. Even though I've already done it, it doesn't mean I can't add to it and change it as my learning and knowledge of things grows. Here would be the kinds of testing that they'll be doing to answer this one. Again, if I downloaded it, I would highlight that and just save it to my desktop somewhere. Here's some more vocabulary, so I can use this for that as well. Maybe not just my resource guide that we already looked at in a different area. And then it does also still give sort of those contexts, like where we limit. So to be on target, to meet that expectation, 6th grade will only use whole number exponents. So we don't have to worry about all the other ones. And then here's some other work that they do need to know, and this is sort of coming from that AF1. So it's not a targeted part of the standard, it's something they already have taken care of. And when I looked at this, I also noticed that since it's Common Core standards, that if I come back and I look at what I already did for my AF1, and I look here, AA2 and AA2C are part of AF1. So I could also decide to go back to my AF1 here and add some information about testing based on what I see from the Smarter Balanced one. So I said AA2, AA2C. So if I look here, I just used this for my AF3 standard, but now I can go back and say, oh, this is something else they're saying that students have to be able to do in AF1 that I've already taken care of. So I just want to make sure that I'm using this document and finding the important information. This one is much harder to read and has a lot to it, so we'll use it the best we can, and just as we keep working, we'll continue to learn and grow. We don't expect you to have everything perfect right away. If we could do that, boy, our jobs would be really easy, and we know that's not the case. So we'll just keep using it, finding the information we can, using it the best way possible. But I did want you to know that even when it looks like this for Smarter Balanced, we still get a lot of that same information. And then it does eventually start giving us, based on with a standard and the DOK level, so here's our EE2A, it does give us some information that we could be using as guidelines for when we are creating problems and creating work for students to do. And it gives us some example stems and some things that we could be using to help create and make sure we are using the exact language and vocabulary that's being assessed and used when we take those assessments.